Welcome, birders. This is Ed Pullen, your host on the Bird Banter Podcast, where birders talk birding. This is going to be a fun episode, but before we get started, I want to talk a little bit about birding during a pandemic. This has been different, I have to say. Instead of going to the most popular birding places, which are easy to do, I've been looking for the most unpopular birding places, or maybe not the most unpopular birding places, but places that I can go birding where there might not be any other people, or certainly not very many other people. I'm lucky, around here we have Joint Base Lewis McChord. It's a place that's kind of hard to go to because you need to have already gone on post, gotten a range pass to be welcome there. And so that limits the number of people who are going to be going around there in the first place. And during this time, the times I've been there, it's been great. It's always good birding there, and there have been almost no people. Yesterday, I went to the mitigated marsh here in Tacoma, the Gogla High Tea mitigated marsh. It was a mitigation in the tide flats, kind of a place not that popular as a walking spot because the rendering plant next door combined with the general odors from the tide flats that were the Tacoma got its the aroma of Tacoma name for that area, makes it a little less popular. The smell isn't nearly as bad now as it used to be, but it's a great birding spot. And I got there yesterday, had a really nice day. The first day of spring, really, recently, that was temperature in the high 50s, light breeze, bright sun, and birds just singing like crazy. I got my first of the year common yellowthroat doing its witchity, witchity, witchity call, just really cool. There were savanna sparrows, again, my first of the year, Pierce County savanna sparrows. They were singing up a storm and all over the place, and it was just birdie as all get out. Had a great walk there. So overall, had a really nice day yesterday, and I've been trying to find a way almost every day to get outdoors, go to some place that's not a long drive, that's going to be lightly used, and where it's easy to keep more than 6 feet social distancing, like 600 feet social distancing in most of these places, or maybe 6 miles in some of them, I don't know. Farther, you don't see any people a lot of the places I've been going, which makes it really nice. I did get a homemade mask. Marion, my girlfriend, made me a homemade mask. So I'm styling it with I don't know, it's kind of a leopard appearing fabric. It's pretty cool. So I can cover up my face when I want to go places where I might have to walk by somebody on a trail or that sort of thing. But generally speaking, don't like wearing it because it fogs my glasses up. I haven't figured out how to keep it. Well, I'm a physician, so we used to go to the operating room, and most of the physicians who wear glasses use a little piece of Scotch tape on the top of their mask or some sort of tape, the paper tape, to keep the air from your exhalation from escaping through the top of the mask right up under your glasses and fogging them up. I haven't quite solved that issue yet. I've been tucking the mask under my glasses to press it against my nose. It isn't working that great. But anyway, enough whining about masks and whining about the pandemic affecting my birding. It's been interesting time. But I took time today, and Mike Bergin, my guest, took time today to record an episode of the Bird Banter Podcast. Mike is a pretty interesting fellow. He has the biggest birding blog on the internet, 10,000birds.com. You should definitely check it out and subscribe. You get an email each day with the most recent blog post summary, and you can pick which ones you want to read. It's pretty nice. I love the Best Bird of the Weekend. Mike and his partner in the enterprise, Corey, put up just a simple little blurb about their best bird of the weekend, and people leave comments what they saw. I think it's kind of fun to see what people saw. Mike mentions on the podcast that what might seem like a common bird to you is going to be, if somebody somewhere is going to be envious, is going to love that you saw that bird. Maybe a chestnut-backed chickadee out here, or a purple finch, or whatever I see might be, really cool to somebody from Florida or somewhere where they don't get those sorts of birds. So their bananaquit would make me envious, and maybe my CBC will make them. Anyway, it was fun talking about that with Mike, and he's just an eloquent and fun guest to have on. I really enjoyed talking with him today, so I hope you enjoy the Bird Banter Podcast, episode number 56 with Mike Bergin. Mike, thanks for being on the Bird Banter Podcast. I appreciate your time.
Ed, I'm really glad to speak with you today.
Yeah, that's great. I have been, for some period of time, I don't know how long, a year or two, been casually following 10,000 Birds, and it's a big site. You've really got something going there. Tell me about that. How did it get started, and how have you maintained it? Websites don't have a natural lifespan of as long as 10,000 Birds has been around. How have you done that?
That's a good point. Well, I really appreciate you mentioning that you follow 10,000 Birds. And yes, the site is huge. And it's because of its natural evolution. I started 10,000 Birds so long ago. It was right when blogging started. And I wanted to get into blogging, and I was working on something having to do with my primary profession, which is education. And that didn't work out. But at the time, I had just gotten into birding. And I thought, I'm into birding, I'm into blogging, I'm an educator myself. So why don't I start exploring this new blogging thing through the process of birding and write about what I see. And this will make me attend to what I'm doing. It'll force me to get out every day. And so that little kernel back in 2003 was the beginning of 10,000 Birds.
Very cool. And did you start by, no, Corey came on 2 or 3 years later, I think. So the two of you have been like a dynamic duo since then, but you started by yourself, it sounds like.
So I started by myself, and it's interesting because, Jeff Gordon talks to people about spark birds. He asks them, what got you into birding? And I remember that I got into birding just because my wife and I were walking, we were hiking like we always did, and a little yellow bird flew by, and that wasn't odd, but for some reason that day we were a little bit curious about it. And then another different species flew by, and we thought, that's interesting. And then a third little yellow bird flew by, different from the other two. And we thought, we really should know what we're seeing. So we picked up a field guide, and that absolutely killed our hiking career, but it started the birding process. And at the beginning, if you go to the early days of 10,000 Birds, I was just fumbling. I was excited about every little bird I saw. Everything was a lifer. I was living in the Bronx and exploring the New York City area. And I guess the process of writing this down, but also going online and trying to connect to other people that were doing the same thing started to spread the word. People were
was not as connected on the internet in those days, I'm sure.
The blogosphere, or let's say the internet, was the Wild West. And it was really interesting because imagine, it's hard to imagine this, but imagine what life was like before social media. Before you could get online or tweet what you had for breakfast that morning, people who wanted to express themselves online had blogs, and that was it. And it was that big thrust of being a diarist, of being a chronicler, of what the new media was, where everybody was carving out a niche in different areas. Some of the famous blogs at the time, like Julie and Julia, became a movie, and some became books, and some became the kernels for business. And 10,000 Birds was a birding site that started to connect with other blogs, both in nature and science. I was in with the earliest science blogging community, and I even spoke at one of their first conference, and I started to actively knit this network together. And I created things like the Eye and the Bird blog carnival, which was a natural way for all the different bird bloggers to contribute posts every couple of weeks, so that people would discover them. And we rotated the hosting. So
you were the Kevin MD
of hundreds of people, hundreds of different bloggers around the world contributing to this community.
You're the Kevin MD of birding.
Who's that?
I'm a family doctor, and Kevin MD is the big consortium of medical blogs. Everybody who blogs submits their best stuff to Kevin MD and it gets posted there. So,
and that's exactly right. And so back in the day, that's what we called a blog carnival. And that's how I met so many birders across the country and across the world. And that's how 10,000 Birds kind of rose up to become the most popular birding blog in the world. And it's really exciting what happened in those days, how we had the Eye on the Bird Carnival, and then the Nature Blog Network, which was another site that I set up where people could contribute their sites, and they would have a little badge on it, which would track their visitors. Right. And so everybody became competitive. Everybody wanted to see where they ranked in the network. And that lasted for years until, as so many things on the internet, the spammers just destroyed it. They just crushed it. But,
exactly.
So what I'm describing, and anybody who's listening to this who remembers the old days of birding remembers how many phenomenal bird blogs there were and how much people were able to share and show through phenomenal pictures. And the bird blogosphere became really big, and we needed consolidation. There were just so many. So that's when, Corey and Charlie Moores joined forces with me. And then we started inviting other writers on because it was difficult when there were thousands of nature blogs. It was difficult for a new blogger to cut through the noise and find an audience. And so we had the opportunity to bring on who we thought were the best writers at the time and still do. And that really helps too, because it keeps the site vibrant, even though today blogging is so much less prominent.
It's certainly not cutting edge anymore, and people are all into video and podcasts are
well, yeah, I mean, and podcasts are really big, but there's just overall, Facebook took over what most bird blogs were about, which was sharing your site. Not just Facebook, actually, eBird. Now that eBird is so phenomenal at capturing site information, then one of the prime functions of birding blogs, and I consider 10,000 Birds still focus on this a lot, is trip reports and site intelligence. And if you want to go birding somewhere, this, Ed, you travel a lot. When you want to go birding somewhere, you start doing research into it. And
eBird is where you go.
eBird is where you go. But it used to be that you would, if you search something in Google, you would just have to get a lot of bird blogs, because that was the only intelligence, and that still was a really valuable
seven
source.
8 years ago. 7 or 8 years ago, that's what we did. It was
that's right.
Seems like the other day.
So between Facebook and eBird, a lot of the need for that granular information, or to just know what a birder is doing any given day, is taken care of. But bird blogs are still fantastic. They're still, we still read books, and those aren't going away. Things like blogs aren't going away. They're just part of a broader constellation or spectrum of information.
They are. I have to say, I still follow a number of blogs, and maybe it's just old school, but I like reading. I mean, reading is, to me, I just like to read something instead of always watching it on YouTube or TV or listening on the radio in the car onto a podcast or whatever. Sometimes it's just nice to sit down and read something.
I agree completely. And that's funny because, we're supposed to be in the paperless revolution. But 10,000 Birds has more book reviewers than ever. We've got 4 book reviewers at this point. We can't keep up with all of them.
Very cool. Very cool. So have you had somebody review Susie Gilbert's new book yet?
Of course. As a matter of fact,
I was going to say, I'll write that for you if you like. I just finished your book. I like it.
I wrote one of the advance comments.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Very
that's
nice.
Because Susie, as I think Ed, she used to write for 10,000 Birds.
That's how I got hooked up with you again. Yes.
She was it was great because she was our bird rehabilitation writer, and she maintained that beat for a long time. And what was interesting about that was how very different the commitments, or let's say the priorities, of bird rehabbers and bird watchers are. in that bird
Definitely.
watchers and bird rehabbers are very much the same. And it's kind of, if you imagine the Venn diagram, there's tons of overlap, but there are differences. And it was fascinating how some of the posts that she wrote would be so different from the normal birding fare. And sometimes we got really powerful reactions positively, sometimes really powerful reactions negatively. I loved it, and it didn't hurt that Susie is a phenomenal writer. So
yeah, she's very good.
Yeah. And her book was great, wasn't it?
It was a wonderful read. I have to. I mean, it was. I interviewed her for the podcast. I would think on a Monday morning, and so I started the book I think Friday night and had finished it by Sunday afternoon. It was just a page turner. It was fun read, and with lots of time in the home these days to read.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, Susie she's a breezy writer. She has great command of the language, and she's a storyteller, and she infuses her writing with a lot of emotion. Even if you go back and you read the everything that she's written extensively on bird rehabbing, you get real narrative and you get real feeling.
Yes, I bet you do. Well, for listeners who are hearing this, this will come out the episode after Susie's. Susie's is going to go live tomorrow morning. So,
well, good. She's a tough act to follow.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think you're doing
going to try even harder to be interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Well, you've got work to do. She was pretty good, I have to say. So I've been on a run of interesting people to talk to. I had Stephanie Seymour, who's a musician. On
we reviewed her CD.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Funny story. Yeah. She's friends with my brother, and
cool.
Yeah. So, but that's terrific.
Small world. So I've been branching out. I've had a rehabber and a musician. Now I've got a blogger. So it's a run of fun stuff. So it sounds like you travel a lot to bird. You and Corey went to Uganda here not too long ago.
We did.
Tell me about that trip.
What a privilege that was. So one of the best things about 10,000 Birds for me has been the ability to connect with so many birding celebrities and personalities all over the world, and a lot of opportunities open up for travel. And I have to say, I've been able to travel through 5 continents now, birding, and it's my favorite kind of birding. So when Herbert, who is really the most prominent advocate for African birding in the world, as far as I know, when he sent out the invitation to come to Uganda and speak at the African Birding Expo,
oh, wow.
I mean, I was so excited.
How do you turn that down?
Because I had never been to Africa, and after meeting Herbert back in, I swear I met him 12 years ago or so.
So give us Herbert's full name so listeners will know who you're talking about.
Well, I don't want to butcher it.
Okay.
It's Burangara, I believe.
Okay.
It's
Thank you.
But he deserves better than to have me mess up his name.
Okay.
But Herbert is well known. He's well known. He appears at most of the birding fairs across the world. He's an international celebrity and an ambassador for African and particularly Ugandan birding. So,
very cool.
Like I said, I met him at, I think I met him at Space Coast. I met him at RGV. I met him at Cape May. I've seen him all over. And so he has helped the Ugandan government spearhead some of these birding expos. And so he invited Corey and I to come to this, and we joined an international delegation of just crack tour guides and BirdLife International staff, and Andrew, who is the head of the Asian Birding Fair. I mean, it's just, really, really fantastic individuals. And we got to travel for 15 days around the country.
Oh, my goodness.
we went almost everywhere. Unfortunately, we couldn't go everywhere because you couldn't fit that in, but we had the full experience of Murchison Falls and Queen Elizabeth Park and the gorilla encounters and the chimpanzee encounters. And you've been to Africa, so you know that when you go, you're not just there for the birds. You're there for the mammals. No. You're there for the environment. And I mean, it's the same wherever you go in the world. You're not just there for the birds. You're there for the butterflies. Sure. You're there for the bugs. You're there for all the wildlife. I mean, one of the most impactful encounters we had was with a daytime roosting flock of thousands of bats.
Oh,
and
yes.
It was beyond belief. It was such an epic opportunity. And then we spoke at the African Birding Expo, and Corey and I got to share with the audience the priorities of American travelers. We were able to kind of say, this is what we're like, and don't be afraid of us, and don't mind if we're a little rude, but this is what we're looking for.
Yeah, sounds like fun. Yeah, I went to Africa. I've been twice. I've been to Morocco, kind of sort of counts as Africa. But I went to Kenya in 2016 with James Bradley and John Sterling. Oh my goodness. What a 15 days like yours, and 548 species. Yeah. About 510 were life birds, just overwhelming and unbelievable. And you're right, the other experiences, some of my favorite memories are seeing the women carrying trees on their head out of the forest.
It's amazing, isn't it?
How does this 5'4", 112-pound woman carry a 8-inch wide log on her head? I mean,
very carefully.
Yeah.
In Kenya, did they drive the boda bikes like they do in Uganda everywhere?
I don't know what you mean by boda bike, so probably not.
Well, the dirt bikes, just everywhere in Uganda.
Yes. Yeah,
people traveled by this very particular kind of motorcycle called a boda.
I don't know about that. I think that, as I recall, there was a big variety of anything with two wheels that would make noise and go was fine. I can't remember the car, but the fact that everybody paid for everything with their phone, there was a special app so nobody used cash or credit cards or anything. Everything was done by their phone, which I thought was pretty cool. So you have your bank.
Well, it's amazing, right? When you travel and you see the parts of the world that have made these jumps, they didn't go through the same technological progression we did. They jumped over some areas. And there are places in the world where they're just cashless. They use their phones for everything. There are places in the world that are more advanced in solar than we are, simply because that was the next step in their energy evolution. And the more you travel, the more interesting expressions of human culture you see.
For sure.
It's a beautiful thing.
So what were, besides the people that you got to travel with and the bats, what were your big, breathtaking Uganda things that you remember?
Well,
what was
your favorite when you go to Uganda and you go birding, or even if you're not birding, but you want to see the coolest bird in Uganda, obviously you go for the shoebill.
Sure.
Yeah, so we did. And what was smart about Herbert is he knows this is exactly what people want. So we made sure that our very first day, we went to Mabamba Swamp. And we went through the swamp and we were so fortunate to get some good looks at shoebill. And
very nice.
Kind of get that off of our back so we could really embrace everything else.
Shoebills make those gigantic nests, don't they?
No, not
something else. I think
shoebills, they're giant stork-like creatures with that clog of a bill, right. And they lurk in the reeds and they eat lungfish, and they just, they're so sloppy and disheveled, but they're prehistoric looking. They're positively primeval.
Yeah, sounds pretty cool.
It was cool. Just amazing. It's just, Uganda is one of those places where, because of you have some changes in elevation, because it's always, you're always at a certain point above sea level. It's never too hot there. And there are just so many birds everywhere. there's something exciting, as a birder, to go someplace with remarkable biodiversity. This is why we love to travel to Central and South America, and we love to travel to the tropical areas. And so that experience of going to a place with diversity equivalent to that of Colombia or Ecuador or Panama just means that every day offers something new.
It is great to see new places like that. Do you have, does anyone have anything coming up? I was going to say, do you have any trips planned?
I don't know. I'm supposed to be, as we speak, I'm supposed to be in Texas chasing golden cheek warblers and black-capped vireos, but unfortunately I couldn't be there. So who knows when any of us are going on a trip again. And my heart goes out to all of my friends who were guides and lodge owners.
The tourism industry. Yes.
Ecotourism is so powerful for moving forward all of the values that most birders care about in terms of reverence for nature and protection of resources and a perpetuation of this great community that we have around the world. And now a lot of our ambassadors are struggling. They can't.
Yeah, totally struggling. I have a trip planned. I'm going on the ABA/Rock Jumper Antarctica trip this fall. If it
you must be so excited.
Oh, I am totally jazzed. But it's also, who knows? The thought of going on a cruise ship right now is a little scary. And who knows? I mean, I think it's a long ways from 100% that it'll happen, but hopefully it will. And
I'm going to keep my fingers crossed for you, because Antarctica is a dream trip for every birder, obviously. Yes. And ABA and Rock Jumper. I don't know if you know this, but Adam Riley of Rock Jumper used to write for 10,000 Birds.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Yeah. I'm super excited about it. I signed up through Alvaro Jaramillo. I don't know.
Oh, great.
Alvaro.
Yeah,
but
of course.
It's just an incredibly smart, fabulous birder. Just I had him on a few months ago as a
Will
guest,
Alvaro be leading that trip?
His Alvaro's Adventures has a subset of the trip.
Wonderful.
Through Rock Jumpers. So I signed up through Alvaro, but it's kind of coordinated through Rock Jumpers. It's a convoluted thing, but if I go, I'll be going on his pre-tour. Southern Chile.
That's amazing.
3 or 4 day thing.
I mean, he really knows that area of the world so well.
He does.
Yeah.
I had him on as a guest, and I was expecting someone from Chile, and on comes this very elegant British accent speaking guy, and I go, whoa. He grew up in Ontario as a British accent.
That's right.
And is yet a native Chilean. It's just like, wow, this is cool.
Yeah. Yeah, he's really interesting and a crack birder.
Oh yes, I loved his story about how he was in his PhD program, and he was on the fast track. Super smart student, went through undergraduate, got his master's degree, was halfway through his PhD program when he realized that wasn't his thing.
Right,
and he kind of quit his PhD program to write a book on blackbirds. I think he said his mother was not happy.
No, but he was, right? So many people lack the bravery to get off a track and embrace the thing that they're really interested in.
And are really good at. I'm sure he would have been just a fine bench researcher, but oh my goodness, what a field ornithologist and trip leader and ambassador for birding and everything. Oh my goodness, he's quite the asset to our community.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Good. So I want to talk a little bit more about 10,000 Birds. You have I read through your list of regular, I don't know if you call them contributors or regular writers.
We call our writers beat writers. Yes, we do get plenty of guest writers, but our beat writers, because everybody picks a particular beat that they focus on.
Okay, so it's like a newspaper taken from that theory or that lingo. Anyway, so how would somebody contribute if I wanted to submit a guest column for you for your
Mm-hmm.
consideration. How would I do that? There must be a place on your site to do that, or how does that
No,
work?
you know what? People reach out to us all the time, and
So it's just informal.
it's we are very informal. I think one of the reasons that Corey and I have kept this going for as long as we do is we really only do it because we enjoy doing it and because we associate with other people that enjoy doing it. This is not a commercial venture. Our sponsors pay for the fees for maintaining such a large site, but we're not in this for the money. It's not the glory either. It's just for the love of birding. And so when other people that feel the same way connect with us and they have something interesting to share, we're just excited to help facilitate that.
Very
so
cool.
Yeah, so what we look for in writers is, first of all, that you can write and that you can provide original pictures to support, because
Sure.
as interesting as reading about birds is, looking at the pictures of them and looking at the pictures of the habitat and seeing things is required. So this is a visual medium, so we want to make sure that people they are good writers.
Have some photos.
They have access to good images, or getting better. Some of our writers have gotten better over time. And that they're consistent, because blogging, this as a content producer, Ed, you have to keep at it. You can't write once a month. You can't record a podcast once a month. It's not even that your audience will become distracted between intervals, but you will lose the thread of the larger story you're telling. So we definitely want to see people who are going to write at least once every 2 weeks, if not every week. And then we make everything easy. The truth is that writing for 10,000 Birds works because we already have an audience, because we already have the site. We take care of the technology. And then people can come on. I mean, just recently, our newest writer is Faraz Abdul from Trinidad and Tobago. Have you been to Trinidad and Tobago yet, Ed?
I have not.
But it's on your bucket list, isn't it?
It's on my. It's not super high, but it's up there. I have not traveled. You've traveled outside the U.S. a lot, birding. I have until the last 3 or 4 years. Really, 3 or 4 years, I just focused on the ABA area. I've birded quite a lot in North America.
Well, if I can make a recommendation, I'll say that Trinidad and Tobago, Asa Wright Lodge, and just the general experience of this location should be very high on anybody's list. Trinidad and Tobago, to me, combines some of the best of both Caribbean and South American birding to the benefit of both. And it's got glass bottom boats and sea turtles. When I went down there, I saw sea turtles hatching, and it has phenomenal rum and street food. Oh, what a place. So anyway, Faraz is the most recent birder to join us, and he's writing about a place that, while those of us who have visited it have written about, we haven't written about it from the perspective of somebody who lives there. And
it's a different perspective. Yeah. Very good.
And before that, Kai Flug is a German who's living in China, and he's a photographer, and he's been sharing his insights and actually some updates of what it's like to be in China right now, which is very interesting.
I bet.
And before that, it was Paul Lewis, who lives in Mexico, and he's a pastor in Mexico, and in a part of Mexico that doesn't get a lot of birding coverage. So again, just, every writer that comes on is usually shining a light onto an aspect of birding nationally or internationally that is really worth listening to and reading about.
Very nice. So it sounds like you've got quite a collection of writers. That's I just looked through it, and it's impressive. So what's up for you? Where do you see this all going? You're gonna continue 10,000 Birds, I'm assuming. Where do you see your birding interests going from here?
Well, I mean, for myself, 10,000 Birds represents my contribution to the birding community. It's an expression of what I like and what I can help populate our ecosystem with. There's just so much. Birding is a shared avocation that really depends on the help of others in our community. And anybody that's gone on a bird walk or a bird tour knows what this is about. If you participate in a big day, or you participate in a Christmas bird count or something, you're doing it because somebody's doing the work to make it happen for you.
Right.
And I appreciate that spirit of volunteerism in our community that we depend on just to learn, when you're out on the trail and people who are spending a lot of time at a particular patch can point you in the right direction, save you a lot of time. Even that is just, it's service. So animated by this commitment to service in our community, we're going to keep 10,000 Birds going as long as we can. We've, had our ups and downs with it in terms of fighting the spammers and the hackers and managing all the dips and valleys of social media. But, we're going to keep going because as long as people want to write for it and people want to read it, we're going to keep going with that. I'm going to continue to connect with people across the country and go birding in places I haven't been, because that's my favorite kind of birding. And that for me will keep birding strong.
I appreciate your contribution to that part of our community. It's really, really helpful. I have to say, of the things that you do on your 10,000 Birds, I have to say, Best Weekend Bird is my favorite thing. I love reading that.
I appreciate that. I just thought that, and I've been writing that for, so many years. And it's just to ask people in the beginning of the weekend, like, where are you going birding this weekend? If you're going to do something interesting, tell us about it. And then, okay, you did it. What was the best bird you saw? And, Corey and I always share ours. And we love when people share. No matter what the bird is that you saw, somebody's going to be jealous about it. You say, I saw some chickadees this weekend. Well, somebody's going to be like, I wish I could see those chickadees.
Yeah, out here, that chestnutback chickadees. You guys don't get those over there.
Oh, I love the chestnutback chickadee. What a beauty. Yeah. I haven't seen one of those in 10 years.
Yeah. So I have to say, I started replying to that, not every weekend, but when I got out for the weekend, and I looked to see if I could post a photo with my comment. Is there a way to do that?
No, there's not. No. You could post a link to a photo, but the internet, as challenging as life online is now, if people could post photos in blog comments, that would be the end of it. We're getting this big, those of us who are dealing with kids online, and the concept of Zoom bombing, where you're giving a lecture or a presentation online, and then some kid is playing something that should not be seen on his screen. It's, there's a certain level of bad behavior. And for that reason, every comment that somebody posts has to be approved.
Mm-hmm. It is a drag. I had a medical blog for years, drpullen.com, and it's still up, but I rarely contribute to it anymore. But oh goodness, the spam. I would get 500 spam comments for every good comment. It was
absolutely, and it's relentless. It happens all the time, and 10,000 Birds over time we've been visited by almost 6 million readers. I mean, it's just amazing how many people. But there was a point in our history where the site had slowed to a crawl, and it was because of all the spam that the filter couldn't stop, and it was because hackers got in, and it took years to untangle it and try to pull out as many strands as possible. It's why you can't have nice things, because no matter what you create, somebody is going to try to hijack it for their purposes and maybe destroy it in the process.
It is a drag. But anyway, I appreciate your contribution with 10,000 Birds. And I want to just give a chance. How can people reach out to you about your site or your things? Is there a comments? Is there a contact us section, or how would people do that?
Of course, there's a contact. Anybody can reach out to me at 10,000birds@gmail.com. I used to have a different Mike at 10,000birds, but again, the spammers destroyed that too. So 10,000birds@gmail.com. You reach out to me, and read the site, comment, share your thoughts. The reason any of us do this, and what's animated all of us for so many years, has been the connection with people who feel the same way we do about birding, nature conservation, and travel, who prize ecotourism, who prize genuine community and connection, and just loving getting out into the field and seeing cool stuff.
It is a great community, I have to say. It never ceases to amaze me how rare it is to find a real jerk who's out birding. I mean,
isn't that amazing?
It happens, but boy, I'll tell you, you find so many helpful, thoughtful, nice people. I was in Texas recently, and we met this guy, and after 2 or 3 stops, this guy's stalking us everywhere we go. This guy shows up, and he walks over and he says, "Well, I checked you out on eBird, looked at this. You should. There's a young fellow down here. I saw that you do a podcast. There's a young fellow down here. You should get a hold of him. He would be a great guest." And it's like out of nowhere. And he says, "Oh, and next week I'm going up north to the coast. Do you want to ride with me?" I said, "Yeah, I could do that." It's just, no matter where you go, you find people who want to help, teach. It's really fun. It's a really fun community.
My philosophy has always been that birders make better neighbors, because if you have a birder living next door, chances are they are taking care of their area. And by that, I don't mean they're manicuring their lawn, but they're creating really interesting native plantings. They are active outside. They believe in science. They believe in community. They are probably conservationists. Just, if I could be surrounded by birders all the time, I think I'd be happier.
Life could be worse than that, couldn't it?
That's right.
Anyway, Mike, thank you so much for being my guest today. I appreciate it. I encourage everyone to check out 10,000 Birds and see what they have to say about that. I think you'll enjoy it. You can subscribe to that. I get it in my email all the time now, since I subscribed a while ago, so that makes it easy. And again, Mike, thanks for being on as a guest. I appreciate it so much.
Ed, thanks for having me. I really enjoyed speaking with you.
Well, enjoy the rest of this rest at home or whatever. Stay home, stay safe time.
Yeah, the shelter in place. Don't worry. We can still go to our local spots.
I am. I have to say, it's been fun. I've been picking places I maybe wouldn't go so much. I said, where could I go today that there won't be anyone at?
So yeah, one of our writers, Paul, he wrote an article last week, Bird Like I Bird, and he basically said, pick a spot you've never been before and that nobody ever goes, and just see what's going on there.
Exactly.
Although I have to admit, it's spring, and the Braddock Bay Hawkwatch platform is such a great place to be. A number of us were there this weekend, but we were all spaced 6 feet or more apart.
Yeah, it's hard. I have to say, I'm doing the same. It's hard not to go to your favorite haunts, and it's hard not to chase every bird you hear about too. Get our first, I'm a county lister, and say you want to get your first of the year, whatever. But I have to say, I went to a place called the Gogla High Tea Mitigated Marsh, which is a wonderful birding place, but does not smell good.
Of course. That means it's probably a great birding spot.
It's in the Tacoma Tide Flats, and has a rendering plant next door, so it can be really, really ripe. But there were 0 birders there, and I got 3 first-of-year species in one sunny afternoon. I thought it was, I'm living right today.
That's it. You know what? Yeah. It's an interesting thing you point out about birding, is that following this interest takes you to the rarest, most unexplored corners of your world. As someone who started birding in New York City and who misses New York for the quality of birding there, you think about all the sewage plants and all the weird spots that nobody goes to, and you go to the beach in winter when everyone else goes in the summer, and you just see the world differently from other people.
I also started birding in New York City. I was when I started birding, I was stationed at West Point in the military.
Oh, good. Hudson Valley is a beautiful spot.
Yes. And I married a woman while I was there, married a woman who was working in New York. And so Kay kept her apartment. She had a little tiny studio apartment in Manhattan. She kept that. And she would after we got married, she would come up for the weekend. She'd go back Monday, stay in her apartment Monday night, come back Tuesday, etc. And I had wet Thursday afternoon off. So I'd go down Thursday afternoon. Some weekends we'd spend in New York and some we'd spend at West Point. It was a pretty wonderful time. But birding Central Park and the Jamaica Bay area.
Oh, yeah.
And,
that's it.
And what is the beach? Jones Beach.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my good. You just take
Phenomenal.
the train out to Jones Beach. It was so cool. And I remember some fabulous birding in New York City. And I was like shocked at how can you go bird watching in Manhattan? But you sure could. It was pretty nice.
I moved to Rochester 12 years ago, and people ask me what I miss about New York. And basically, I just miss the birding. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, my prayers go out to Corey, too. It sounds like he is knee deep in the middle of this COVID-19.
He is. He certainly is on the front lines, but he has access to all those fantastic birding spots, and he's exploring some new ones himself. So at least he's got that to keep him going.
Good for him. Well, Mike, again, thank you for being on as a guest. I appreciate it, and you make it a good day. Take care.
You too. Take care, Ed.
Well, that wraps up the Bird Banter Podcast episode number 56 with Mike Bergin. Mike is a key part of the birding community. He is the creator of maybe the biggest birding blog on the internet. I've had lots of guests who have found ways to use and leverage their passion for birding into a way to give back to and participate actively in the birding community. I've had a number of authors. I had Christian Hagenlacher, and I had Susie Gilbert last week on, who are authors of books related to birding. Susie's was more bird rehabilitation. It was a novel, but birding-related books. I've had a musician, Stephanie Seymour, on recently. I've had a number of people who participate in other ways. I've had Alvaro Jaramillo. I've had Dorian Anderson, both now trip leaders. Dorian also did Biking for Birds Big Year. I've had lots of people who participate in all sorts of different ways, along with people who are birders, trip leaders, other things. But blogging for 17 years and 10,000 birds has to have been a massive undertaking for Mike, and I have tremendous respect for that. As I mentioned on the podcast, I did the drpullen.com website blog for, several years, and that was really a wonderful undertaking. Communicated with a lot of interesting people that I would not have otherwise, and this birdbanter.com website and the Bird Banter podcast have been ways that I've been able to reach out to a lot of people that I otherwise wouldn't have talked to. But boy, for 17 years, Mike's been doing this, and that is an awesome accomplishment. I am boggled at the longevity of that website and the reach that it has all over the world. Pretty impressive. You definitely should check it out. Well, I had a nice time talking with Mike today. Always good to hear new people, hear different points of view and perspectives, and I hope you enjoyed it too. I'm going to ask a favor. Leave a rating and a review on the Apple Podcasts, on Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcast feeds. It really gives me excellent feedback, helps me get better, and helps me rank better on those podcast feeds. So thanks for your rating and review, and until next time, good birding, good day.